From nothing else but the brain comes joy, delight, laughter, sorrow, and grief. By this, we acquire knowledge and wisdom. Join us today at Phytrix as we unravel the history of modern neuroscience. Society of Neuroscience was founded in 1970. There was a correlation between structure and function of brain. Hippocrates, the father of Western medicine, believed that the brain was not only involved with sensation but was also the seat of intelligence. The Greek philosopher Aristotle believed that the heart was the center of intellect. Greek physician Galen embraced the Hippocratic view of the brain function. Two parts were very evident: cerebrum and cerebellum. Cerebrum in the front, cerebellum in the back. He discovered that the cerebellum is hard and cerebrum is rather soft. Since cerebrum is concerned with sensation and perception, cerebellum is a movement control center. He found hollow spaces called ventricles on dissection of a sheep's brain where he found fluid, which fits perfectly well with the prevailing theory that the body functioned according to the balance of the four fluids or humors. French mathematician and philosopher René Descartes advocated for fluid mechanical theory of brain function. He believed that the mind was a spiritual entity and receives sensations and commands by communicating with the machinery of brain via pineal gland. Now, let us revisit our understanding of the nervous system by the end of 18th century. The injury to the brain disrupts sensation, movement, and thought and can cause death. The brain communicates with the body via nerves. The brain has different identifiable parts which perform different functions. It operates like a machine that follows the laws of nature. Well, this was all about the 18th century. Looking forward to the 19th century, we have nerves as wires. Benjamin Franklin published experiments and observations on electricity. Italian scientist Luigi Galvani and German biologist Emil du Bais-Riemann showed that the muscles can be caused to twitch when nerves are stimulated electrically, and the brain itself can generate electricity. It was unresolved whether the signals to the muscles causing movement use same wires as those that register sensations from the skin. When a nerve in the body was cut, there was usually both loss of movement and sensation in the affected area. Within each nerve, there are many thin filaments or nerve fibers, each one of which could serve as an individual wire carrying information in different directions. Scottish physician Charles Bell and French physiologist François Magendie discovered that just before the nerves attach to the spinal cord, the fibers divide into branches or roots. The dorsal roots enter towards the back while the ventral roots enter towards the front. Cutting only ventral roots caused muscle paralysis. Dorsal roots carry sensory information into the spinal cord, and within each nerve is a mixture of many wires, some of which bring information into the brain and the spinal cord, and others send information out to the muscles. In each sensory and motor nerve fiber, transmission is strictly one way. Now let's look at the localization of specific functions to different parts of the brain. Simply put, different functions are localized in different parts of brain. Bell proposed that the origin of motor fibers is the cerebellum and distinction of the sensory fibers in cerebrum. Bell and Magendie used experimentational ablation method to confirm this proposal. In 1809, Gall proposed that the propensity for the certain personality traits like generosity, secretiveness, and destructiveness could be related to the dimensions of the head. The science of correlating the structure of the head with the personality traits is called phrenology. Criticizing the notion, Florence performed experimental ablations showing that the particular traits are not isolated to the portions of the cerebrum specified by phrenology. French neurologist Paul Broca was presented with a patient who could understand language but could not speak. After the man's death in 1861, Broca carefully examined his brain and found a lesion in left frontal lobe. Based on this case and several others like it, he concluded that this region of human cerebrum was specifically responsible for the production of speech. Stay tuned for our next episode on the evolution of nervous system.